The Sahara was not always as dry as it was today, but there's also a misconcept of something called the Green Sahara. It was never green. It was always, even in the best of the early Holocene, a very dry savanna environment, but there was more rain, which enabled human habitation. And even these days, when you get rain, just like here in Namibia, it becomes an amazing green jungle for a couple of weeks. Then, of course, it's all gone. Getting back to the map, there are four principal regions, which is full of rock art. One is the Tassili in Nigeria in southern Algeria. One is the Tibesti Mountains in northern Chad. Then a little bit further down, the Enedi Plateau, also in Chad. And then we got the region of Jebel Uweinat and Gilf Kebir, which is really my sort of narrow sandbox. That's where I've done most of the research. So we're going to have a look at these in reverse order. We'll start with Jebel Uweinat, smack on the border of Libya, Egypt, and Sudan. It's very remote. It takes about 700 kilometers to get here from all sides. It's actually a very interesting match for the Brandberg here in Namibia. They are both on the 22nd latitude, north and south, and they're both granite ring complexes, although Uweinat is a little bit more eroded than the Brandberg. And then on the eastern side, we've got a bunch of sandstone plateaus, which contains the bulk of the rock art. Getting there is not easy, as I said. 700 kilometers through absolutely nothing. A lot of pushing and shoving, and of course you need to take all your fuel and water because there's none of it there. This is the eastern sandstone part of Jebel Uweinat, a big plateau, quite high, and the west is granite, just like Brandberg or the Orongo. But the fundamental difference is that there's practically no vegetation. So, of course, it makes life easier because you don't have a thorn bush in every nice passage where you could go. A little bit on the history of Uweinat. It was the Egyptian explorer Ahmed Hassanian who actually put it on the map exactly 100 years ago. It was in May 1923 when he found it and published it in 24. And he already found some rock art engravings in the valley. Then another Egyptian, Prince Kamal ad-Din, found further paintings. Bagnold of the long-range desert group fame also explored Uweinat, again finding a number of sites. Then came Frobenius, who also did a lot of exploration here in Namibia. Parts of the Namibian rock art sites were first published by the Frobenius Institute. His assistant was Hans Rortet, and it was the Hungarian László Almási who guided them. Again, loads of new rock art sites in 33. Hans Winkler in 38. Then there was a big gap after the war. It was a bunch of Italians and Belgian expeditions who found some further sites. Few more in the 90s and 2000, and basically this was the shape in 1998 when we started looking at this place. And to be honest, the results were quite spectacular. That's the map as it stands at present. We found more than 700 new sites in the Uweinat area. Further sites were found by an Italian team, and one of the wonderful finds was made by a Maltese friend of ours, Mark Border, who found an ancient Egyptian inscription in 2008, the farthest ever inscription in the Libyan Desert. When we first started out, we basically only wanted to find the known sites, nothing more. This is one of the pages from Almashi's book, which I actually just saw down there. It shows a very nice group of archers, opposing archers. It was not easy to find this site. This is what it looks like in real life on the ceiling of a very, very low shelter. You can barely crawl in. It's like that far from your face when you're in there. Taking some digital photos was a little bit better. And this gives me a perfect opportunity to acquaint you with a remarkable tool which we've been using for the past 10 years now. It's a software called dstretch, which is a mathematical algorithm to amplify very minuscule tonal differences, and it's perfectly workable for rock art. This is what you get after processing with dstretch. You can actually see what's there. And it's very interesting to compare with the original hand tracings, which were not very accurate, to put it mildly. But as I said, first we were just looking for known sites, but much to our favor, NASA put out the free Landsat imagery in 2002. This is the kind of best resolution you could get at that time, but it was good enough. What did I do? Help? Ah, there we go, okay. So this is the best resolution you could get at the time, but it was already good enough to identify a number of valleys where no rock art was reported previously. So what we did in 2002, we went there with a specific aim of looking for rock art in these valleys. Lo and behold, we found fantastic sites, totally unknown at the time. Practically in every valley where we searched, there were new sites, these wonderful arches. Also, there was a very conspicuous spot on the map. We called it the white spot, a circular feature on the top of Uweinat. It turned out to be nothing more than an erosion feature around a volcanic plug, but a wonderful place. This is the first recorded time that anybody was up there, 2003. More recently, once we started having good Google Earth imagery, our life started becoming much more interesting. With high-resolution imagery, you can actually identify individual rocks. And this is one of the last unexplored areas at Uweinat. And before we could go, we could identify individual rocks where very likely you would find rock art. Again, lo and behold, we went there, we looked, and yes, there was. Hello? There we go. So pretty much everywhere where you look, you just find rock art. A little bit of structured talk about what kind of rock art we find at Jebel Uweinat. At the end of 2009, which is the last published count, we had more than 850 sites recorded. They're roughly equally spread between paintings and engravings. Tonight I'll be talking mostly about paintings, simply because I like them all, they're much nicer. The most common that you find are the Uweinat cattle pastoralists, which is just that. Hundreds of sites with paintings of cattle everywhere. There are a few more sites in the plateau to the north of Jebel Uweinat, Gilf, Kebir, and I'll come back to this later because this has some special importance. There are several closely related styles, but very clearly these were the same people. Also, ghosts depicted aside cattle, very few wild animals. And the humans are done in a very elaborate, artistic way. This is one of my favorite scenes from very high up on the mountain. It takes about a day and a half to climb up here. It's actually two women. You can even see a very light skirt on both of them, and the little dots that indicate that they're wearing a translucent, very light fabric. Another style, which some of you may be familiar with from the famous Cave of Swimmers, is only found to the north in the Gilf Kebir. This is the cave of swimmers discovered by Almashi and featuring in the English Patient movie. This is the real one. The most defining feature is this unique headless beast, which seems to be a combination of some kind of feline and animal or something. We don't really know what it is. We only see wild fauna. There are no signs of any domesticates, so it's pre-pastoral. It's a very high degree of symbolism. We don't really know what these paintings mean, what they were made for, but certainly they're very abstract. And you can see the little swimming figures over here, after which the cave of swimmers were named. Then we got another pre-pastoral style called the miniature style. It's literally what it is. The figures are sort of that big, sort of 8-9 centimeters, and the little baby in front of the mother is no more than 2 centimeters. Tiny little figures, very few of them, not really many. They're very realistic. Family scenes all around. I mean, you can see all the little children all around. Here one with a mother. There are a couple of giraffe hunting scenes, and again some other wild fauna, but no domesticates, except we have dogs somewhere. We have one unique scene, which is this, well, blob. But if you look at it with these stretch, you can see that we have here a big figure surrounded by a group of archers. What makes this very special is that not very far away, about 2 kilometers away, we have a very similar scene with almost the same kind of depiction, but not the same. If you make a comparison, clearly they're trying to show the same. This could be one of the very first depiction of a myth, a story, whatever. We don't know what's behind it, but certainly it's saying the same thing. Then we got these Wadi Wahesh style little figures, a little bit different from all the rest. Also, no domesticates shown except dogs, of which there are quite a few around. We got this lovely scene of a giraffe on a tether. I don't really know what they managed to do here. I wouldn't be standing so close to a giraffe, especially not on a tether. Some people suggest that this could be a sign of giraffe domestication, but I don't really buy that. We got ostriches as well. And then we start getting to the older ones. These are the so-called Uweinat round heads, which are exactly that, round featureless heads, only human figures shown, sometimes with body decoration, sometimes with some clothing. There is occasionally bow, arrows.
Sorry.
Yes?
You said older.
Yeah, I'll get back to that. Yeah.
And the dogs.
Yeah. We're sort of digging down in time now.
Where we know?
It's coming in the next slide. There's one of these sites which we have discovered relatively recently in 2017, which is probably the finest example of these figures. There's clearly body decoration, there are armbands, leg bands. Not really clear if there is actually some clothing you can make. You can see that they have loincloths, bow here, arrows held in the hand. Another one of the old ones is the elongated round heads, which are, again, just that. They're long, elongated figures with unnatural body proportions. Only human figures with bows. Another recently found site, again, a very good illustration of the capabilities of these stretch. You can hardly see anything of this on the spot, but with these stretch, all the details come out. Another one of the same lot. If anybody has any suggestions on what is going on here, I'm ready to listen.
Sorry, I think maybe this is, I'm trying to figure out when do you think these were made? What the,
I'm coming, it's coming on the next slide, so we're progressing there. Patience, please. Then we have another site here, which is based on superpositions, probably some of the oldest paintings at Jebel Uweinat. Bunch of human figures, animals. Again, we see body decoration. You have this chevron type decoration on the bodies, which is a very typical feature. Rather stylized animals. And almost completely faded. You can really only see this with these strips, nothing else. So, there we go, what you were asking. Relative chronology. There are a number of superpositions which will give you an indication of which is the younger one and which is the older one. Cattle pastoralist paintings are always on the top, and all the others I've been talking about, they're below the cattle. Very clearly you see the miniature style little figures below. This is a unique series of superpositions. We actually have some very faint roundhead figures underneath. You can just barely make them out. Then we have the miniature style, and you've got these red figures, which are cattle pastoralist. So this indicates first the younger style of pastoralist, then the miniature style, and then below you got the roundheads. You have similar overpaintings for the Wadi Wahish style, and you also see that the elongated roundheads are below the Wadi Wahish style figures. And also the Wadi Sora type figures are superseded by the cattle pastoralist. We also know that the elongated roundheads are one of the oldest layers because the big roundhead figures are over them. So that's the relative chronology, but what about absolute dates? The key to that is when were the climatic conditions suitable for cattle there? The key to this is a valley called Wadi Bakht in the Gilf Kebir, where a big dune